This front body line drill or movement or exercise may be the most important exercise in this entire beginner handstand program because it's teaching an athlete or an individual how to actually access their lower traps and open up their shoulder joint to the full extent. Because what inevitably happens when most people begin kicking up into a handstand, if you were to look at them from the side, it looks more like an incline bench press as opposed to a straight line where they're opening up the shoulder. So even if you have no ambition of doing a handstand, whereas I don't know why you have downloaded this program if that was the case, the front body line would still be a great drill for athletes just to get some lower level, lower trap work in to start balancing out the upper traps and the lower traps. It's just a great way to maybe mitigate or avoid overuse injuries because the majority of all the things we do in the gym are upper trap dominant. So just so you guys can see what kind of a handstand looks like where maybe I'm not using my lower traps to their full extent, and then what it looks like when I'm actually accessing or turning on my lower traps. There we go. Right now, I'm kind of relying on the bony anatomy of my shoulders. I'm not pushing away from the floor. I'm in a slightly planched position where my feet are behind me. So this is not really using my lower traps. Whereas now I'm starting to push away from the floor, opening up my shoulder angle. I should have a better line from my toes to my hands. So this is a better example of what it looks like to use my lower traps in the handstand. So how we're going to start training that in a much lower level situation is going to be the front body line. And we've got 3 variations of the front body line from beginner to intermediate and advanced. So let's go through all 3 right now. The points of performance for all 3, regardless of what they are, they're going to stay the same for the most part. So they're going to be, you want nose and toes in contact with the floor the entire time. I have an ab mat here because it's not very fun to smash your nose on the floor, so I rest my forehead on the mat right there. So nose and toes on the floor, and then I'm going to be in a hollow body position. So the beginner, the entry level variation, we're going to be at about shoulder width here, and what I want to do is bend my elbows so I have a 90-degree angle more or less here. So then from there I just tell myself nose and toes, hollow body, nose and toes, hollow body. So there's a space between my belly button and the floor. And then from there, I'm just going to lift up a little. So I want the stick in line with the top of my hat right now. I don't want to be lifting up here. This defeats the purpose of the movement. So then I'll just hold here from the prescribed amount of time. So then the next variation from there is I'm going to start out as wide as I want to go, so think overhead squat grip. And then from there, we're going to straighten the elbows, same points of performance, nose and toes on the floor, hollow body position, lifting the stick up, attempting not to lift it up too high. So what that's going to look like, nose and toes, hollow body position, elbows locked out, lifting up just enough so it's in line with the top of my head. And then the final progression on this movement is going to be, we're going to go back to that shoulder width position on the stick. So then from there, if my elbows are at 90 degrees, and then I straighten my arms. This is more or less shoulder width position and a good starting point for the handstand. And then from there, everyone can start playing with what they find to be most comfortable. But this is where I like to start people. Then from there, tell myself the same cues, nose and toes on the floor, hollow body position, lifting the stick up. So those are the 3 variations of progressions here. Kind of some of the common faults that you're going to see athletes demonstrate or perform. There's 2 things I really want you to look out for. First of all is extending the wrists to lift the stick up off the floor. We ideally want a straight line from the shoulders, elbows, and wrists. So avoid extending the wrists. I'll demo that one in a second along with the second mistake. And then the other one is not actually opening up the shoulders to their full extent and just lifting the stick up off the floor. You'll see in a second here, I really need to over-exaggerate, shrugging my shoulders into my ear or almost reach to a target in front of me as opposed to just lifting up the stick. So the first mistake would be if I can barely lift it up off the floor, I start curling my wrist. Then the second is I want you to see the difference between lifting up and then really shrugging, opening up the shoulder joint, using the lower trap to its full extent. And then from there, whatever progression you're working on within the time domains that's prescribed in the program, I'd stick to it as closely as you can. Take your time with it. There's no need to rush. Quality over quantity with this.